Okay.
I got the shirt. I love the shirt.
Yes, power to the people. I love it. Shout out to Glitzy Glam. They manufactured the shirts, and Heart and Hustle came up with the design. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Other people can buy that, right?
If you donate $25 to the campaign, you too can have this fancy shirt. Well, you get the wrongfully imprisoned one, but if you donate 50 or more, then you get to pick the shirts that you want.
Okay. Because I have the other one, but I like that one too. That one's really
Yum,
nice.
yum, yum. So, anyways, so today on our conversation today, we're going to be talking about.
I should put the wine away.
No, put it in there. Like we talking, we're recording.
We're doing it, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Normally we drink wine together, but social distancing.
You know, because you're from California, from Northern California, and you're a wine snob, and I'm just a wine snob. I just like drinking wine.
I'm just a snob at all times.
You gotta tell who you are. You are Rachel Cunningham. Rachel Cunningham has been working with us in casting, but she's also a writer, producer, a performer. I just know so many freaking multi-hyphenate people. So the crowd goes well. Hi, Rachel.
Hello, Brittany. My old work friend just became so much more. Real friends.
When work best friends turn into real friends.
Work best friends turn into real friends. But you have, because I remember I was thinking about it this afternoon, after I called you. I was thinking about like when I think I read the second draft or the third draft of what you wrote.
Did you? Oh, maybe the third draft. Yeah.
Maybe the third draft, not the first draft, because I know that was just in your class or with people or just by yourself. I don't know when you started.
So the thing about Duvar is that I workshopped it for a couple of months before I shared it with anyone. So there was like a group of 8 writers that were kind of like helping me cultivate it. And I was writing a pilot and the full feature at the time, and then kind of turned a portion of it to a short film.
Yeah, I remember that.
What we're promoting right now. So the reason why I wanted to call Rachel here is because Rachel has a lot of opinions, but they're educated opinions. So we were having a conversation on social and structural inequity and just the importance of it now. So I just wanted to kind of talk to you, pick your brain, and see what you kind of felt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that one of the most powerful things about your script, and it's funny because I remember reading it originally a while ago, maybe a year ago.
Another script.
Oh, it was a different script. Okay, I don't know. Well, then I don't know when I first read Duvar because but it was a little bit ago. Anyway, that's not important. The things that really struck me on it the first time I read it, and then it struck me even harder the last time when we had the big group reading, was that so much of it is it's about inequality in a lot of ways. There's obvious racial injustice and rampant inequality in our justice system, but there's also class inequality. There's also financial inequality. And it was interesting for me when we had that group reading with some of your friends who were not artists in any way, having input from that perspective about how specific it is to the location of where it's set. And yet it felt as if it could be anywhere in the United States. I mean, it's very clearly a Texas story, but it doesn't, when I was reading it, I was having this discussion with someone else there, and I can't remember who it was, but we both looked at each other afterwards and said, this could be anywhere in the United States.
Absolutely. And I didn't necessarily write it so that it could be specific to any region. It was just like, oh, okay, this happened in Texas, so I want to set it there. So as far as like social and structural inequity goes, why do you feel like this story is important for today? I know you want to ask me that question, but I'm like, I want to.
Well, in terms of, it's a good question. I mean, do you mean specifically because of COVID times, or
because of lifetimes, COVID times,
yeah,
times?
Yeah. Well, I think it's specific because it's kind of hard to escape the reality that we're all living in right now of COVID. And to me, the more because I'm a little bit of a news junkie, which is a problem. I have to stop. But to me,
Yeah.
nothing has magnified the inequality that we have more than in a time of crisis. Mm-hmm. Nothing. I mean, it's so clear how the system that we have in place, if it wasn't already obviously apparent, but it's undeniable that it only works for a certain segment of the population, which is white and wealthy. And you can't get around that. That's the way it is. But in a time of crisis, when people are dying, it's never acceptable, but it's not a time to hear excuses as to why it exists, when it clearly doesn't work. So I think, this is a question that I'm going to ask.
Or does it work though? It works.
What, the system?
Yeah, you said that it clearly doesn't work. But I'm like, what does it though? Because it still exists.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I would say resoundingly no, it doesn't work, because healthcare is a big issue for me, which I've lived in a country, and I think you have too. I don't know if China has this. I don't know, you would know better than me because you've lived there, but I have lived in a place where there was universal healthcare, and it's just better. And a lot of my friends who are from Europe have said to me on multiple occasions, they just ask me, they're completely confused. They're just, why is that the case in the United States that you don't have that? And so not only do we not have that, and that is very much a financial situation, it's a class situation is the wrong word, but it's also a racial inequality. Healthcare, it's particularly for women of color. And if you're talking about
don't start nothing now. Hold on, because you're about to get something started. Really, but it really is though.
But it is. It's just it's not. It is. No, it's true that if you are, well, let's just talk about pregnancy, because why not? Let's talk about pregnancy as I drink my wine. Go ahead. When a woman of color is pregnant, they're less likely in this country to get the health care that they need to safely deliver their baby to term, if that's what they want.
Okay, I want to say a few things about that. Like, look at COVID, though. Like, they're like, oh, there's disparities with COVID in the Black population, Black community. But I'm like, okay, that's some structural inequity right there, too. I saw the Surgeon General. He just made some statements that made me feel very Uncle Thomas about him, because he was just like, oh, Black people, think about me, Mom. Think about Papa. Stop drinking and smoking and doing drugs. And I'm like, hold on. First of all, let's talk about the structural inequity there. Yeah. First of all, a lot of us don't necessarily have health care. The testing is not necessarily existing in our neighborhoods. That's why Brooklyn saw the spike in population. A lot of us do have more diseases, or are more susceptible to diseases that COVID runs rampant within, like hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure. Those are very common within our communities. Oh, why? Because economically, we didn't get good diets. So we have habits of cooking things that aren't necessarily good for our hearts. So then when a virus comes and a pandemic comes, and then nobody motherfucking taking care of you, and a healthcare system, that you're going to see it. So if you want to talk about drugs and alcohol, we all got a problem with that. Like, that precedes race. So
oh God, yes. Oh God. I mean, I used to live in rural America, like white rural America. Let me tell you something. They have
heroin problems.
Oh yeah. There was somebody, I saw a guidance counselor. This is way off topic, but I saw a guidance counselor my freshman year of college because I was having problems, as one does. And she told me this story. I don't know why, but she told me this story. I had been going to this school, and I was like, why am I here? For the first 3 months. And at some point she told me this horrible story about a meth lab blowing up like 2 years prior. I was like, casually, it was like down the street. And I was like, what? Why am I here? What's happening? The drug problem, the lack of access to healthcare, the lack of access to, for a huge segment of the population of the United States, is something that, especially right now, we can't ignore it. And I would love to hear more about if you feel, because one of the things that I really like about your screenplay is that focuses on a segment of people who have been ignored traditionally and then criminalized, but for not doing the things that they don't have access to do in the first place.
Okay, wait. Expound on that a little bit more. Like, what you mean by that? You said people who have been that part.
Well, I mean, because I'm thinking about Duvar and Joanna, and obviously Joanna is the more privileged person as a white woman in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, well, this gets to another question that I want to. Okay, I like hide it in my brain. But what was I talking about? Oh, well, they both, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, because this is based on a true story, but they're both coming from places where neither one of them has a lot of money.
I think
neither
because they're young.
Because they're young. Okay, it's not a. It's not a class system necessarily.
I mean, it exists. They don't have any money, so they're a young couple without any money, and they don't. Yeah. They're not going to college or anything like that. They just have this baby together.
They have this baby together. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, it's a factor. I mean, they're looking at like, okay, I don't want to like give the story away. I just want you guys to like support it.
No, it's really well, okay. On that note, because I remember you talking about this earlier, how do you have your feelings changed? Because you're directing this, you're directing what you wrote. Mm-hmm. Have your feelings changed about whether or not is there a side that you want to take, or is there not a side you want to take? Is this going to be more from like...
Before I started writing it, I had a side that I wanted to take, but I tried to write it outside of my biases and just give you, okay, here, let me put all the facts in one room and fictionalize it to an extent, and then share it. I don't necessarily want my biases to bleed all out in this, but I feel like the importance of this film is that you, the viewer, get to decide, and your biases are going to dictate how you perceive this entire situation, because I've gotten a lot of different feedback. But then again, I've read this in rooms full of New Yorkers, so obviously they have their biases, and a couple of people from Texas and just different places. So I don't want to focus too much about what I feel like about this film. I don't think it's about how I feel. I think it's just a story that just needs to be told.
Have you found, so when you put this in front of the eyes of a New York audience versus people from Texas who understand that world better than, I mean, I'm not from Texas. I've never been to Texas. I don't understand the world of what Texas is. And it would, do you find the reactions, how do you find the reactions?
Well, I mean, I would like to get it in front of more people so that I could see it a little bit differently. It hasn't really been in front of a big Texas audience. I had a few people from Texas at the New York reading, and it just kind of bled all out, like it turns into a Texas conversation. And I don't think that's really, that's not the point. That's just, I mean, it's a character in the story, obviously, but I don't think that it's the crux of the story. Like, it's just like, here, this is the backdrop in which it's set, but then it's also set in this American backdrop, and it could have just as easily been any city in this country.
Yeah. Can I ask you about production, or how much I don't know how much you want to talk about it. We don't have to. You don't have to.
You're like interviewing me. I'm like, oh gosh, okay.
Okay, I can stop asking questions.
No, let me just hear. Let me see. I'll tell you if I want to answer.
Okay. Do you want to reveal where you're shooting the film?
I don't think it matters too much.
Okay.
I mean, but right now we are planning to shoot it in New York. Like, we're just going to try to keep it as authentic as possible, because again, most of it takes place in one room.
Right.
So, and the resources are here. I guess I don't mind too much telling that aspect. The resources that I live here. I've been working here. Right now the resources are here. Should that change, we'll get flexible. But yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you don't want, so Texas is a character.
It feels like it's becoming that. When you said, you said based on some of the audience's reactions and stuff, I think that kind of came out of that. That came out of that development. Like, oh wow, Texas is kind of its own character in the story.
Yeah. Well, I found in my life, as I was born on the West Coast by parents from the East Coast, that the coastal elitism is such a thing. And I'm curious if you have found that. It's because I had to confront my own coastal elitism when I moved to the Midwest and lived there for 6 years and loved it. But have you found that people who tend to view the middle part of the country as flyover country have a particular bias one way or the other?
Have I found that people on coasts have a bias towards things?
Towards a story where Texas is a character? Or do they immediately latch on to that? Like, oh, this isn't Texas. Okay, and we've decided what this is.
I was like, oh, they're over there. That's them.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure it possibly could come up, but I'm from Texas, and Texas is a nation state. Like, we have this sense of pride about who we are and what we are. Like, we pledge allegiance through high school to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas one and indivisible. People think that's crazy because y'all didn't, like in California, y'all didn't say the state flag. Do you even know the pledge of the flag?
No, I have no idea.
Exactly.
I know what the flag looks like, but I don't know.
So people in Texas who are watching this, they're going to be like, what, y'all know that? No, yeah, they breed us to be like Texas pride. From Friday Night Light, football games, to homecoming moms. Texas is its own separate thing, so we have our own form of elitism anyway.
That's...
Yeah, so in the same way, you'll see a New Yorker, like, we don't need to live somewhere else for. We have everything we need here. The people from Dallas feel the exact same way. That housing are way better. Like, you live in that little bitty apartment, you pay how much for what?
Oh my God, no, it's so true. It's so true. All the time. I've been feeling very nostalgic lately, and I've been looking at pictures when I used to live in Chicago, and I'm like, oh my God, I used to live like such a nice place. What have I done to myself?
You moved to New York, that's what happened.
I know, it's a mistake, Brittany. I actually really like New York, but that's because, as you once said to me, well, you're always talking shit. You're always talking shit, but I actually do really...
I'm just saying, like, you don't want to be here, you can leave. It hates all of us equally.
It does. That's fair. Even if you're from there, apparently.
True. That's why they either leave or go like up to Westchester or just like spend a lot of money on therapy.
Never enough.
Yeah. So my next question is for you.
Okay.
Why is this film important now? Did I ask you that already?
You did, but I kind of focused on COVID.
COVID time. So why do you think that we okay, let me ask this then. Why do you think that this film deserves a chance to be made right?
Right now, because
post-COVID.
Post-COVID.
And go outside and get together again. That's
but we can hug our friends. That'll be a good time. I know.
I miss touching human.
I know.
Nice.
I miss human contact. Well, I think the reason why it's important and needs to be made right now, needs to be made yesterday, needs to be made today, needs to be made tomorrow.
Because again, I say this because we have other films that exist, and I know some people are probably a little bit jaded. They're like, I don't want to keep seeing this racial inequality. Like, I'm sick of this shit. Even just like, it don't matter what race you are. Some people are just tired of the shit. I think this is a unique take on it, but you know, I'm a little biased.
Well, you did write it. It's really good. I really, really like it. Well, I think it's for no other reason than that it hasn't gone away. This is still a problem. It's still a problem right now. I know we mentioned, I mean, this is talking about undocumented immigrants in this country, but this was like a month ago, and I think we were talking about this. I was in the LA Times about how the first day when Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, basically shut down the state, and everybody was on lockdown, everybody was in quarantine, and ICE was going around to people's houses and putting them in detention centers to be deported. And it's one of those things where there is such injustice in this country and such cruelty in this country towards people who don't look like me. And it's very uncomfortable for me to have this conversation because I look the way I look. I grew up the way I grew up. I have privilege, unbelievable privilege. I'm educated. I have all of these things that I think for people who look like me and have my background and have my experience, to me, to say, oh, I'm tired of it. I can't speak for other people, but for anybody who is similar to me, when I hear things like, oh, I'm tired of hearing it, it's like, okay, but there are people who are experiencing this, and they're pretty tired of experiencing it. So I'm sorry that it makes you uncomfortable, but you not wanting to hear it is not the same as somebody else not wanting to live it.
Okay. And so you can't speak for like people of color who's just like, oh God, another one of those.
No, I can't, because I'm not a person of color, and that is just the reality. And I would never seek to do that. I would never, no, but I can speak towards people who are like me and say, I really don't care if you're tired of hearing about it. It's important. Everybody should be equal under the law, and we aren't. And that has to change.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's decent. I guess I don't know if I should really be speaking for Black people, but I know sometimes I do feel personally very heavy when I take in stories like this. I haven't read my own story in a little bit of time too, but I did, I spent months with it. I sat with it for some months. So I could understand the weariness towards, oh gosh, we have to have like better depictions of us. But I think it's not even just better depictions. I think it's just varied stories that need to be told. And this is not like a traditional, this is not the story you hear every day. Like there's some question as to whether is he guilty or not. And he's not like this gangster or this thug or anything like that. Like I don't see those stories about us constantly being these stereotypes. I understand they exist, but I don't necessarily want to keep watching them either. But I don't know. I just feel like this story is a bit of a unique. I mean, it's true. Like the story's true. Like I didn't try to make it be anything like that, and it was just one of those situations. It was speaking to me. Like it was telling me, "Hey, you need to write this," and this is outside of my jam. Like I write funny, awkward girl stuff.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, is there? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I have no idea. I have no personal experience with this, but do you find that some of the weariness from other people comes from a place of not wanting to relive certain realities?
Absolutely. And then some people have their ways of anesthetizing the pain or the tiredness. I remember whenever we saw, what is it? Philip, the guy who got shot in the car by the cops.
Oh, in Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was a few years back, like 2016 or something.
Yeah. He was an English teacher, as I recall. He was a teacher.
Oh, he was a lunch dude. He worked in the cafeteria or something.
Oh, did he? Oh, I thought he was a teacher. Oh, God. Well, maybe.
There's so many. There's so many.
Well,
There's so many, but that was my first time actually seeing a human die, like live. And she was recording it live, and I was like, oh, shit, this is like happening right here. And it just like fucked me up. I was not okay for a little bit of time. And I remember, and because I just moved back into the country, and they were like, oh, Donald Trump is a real candidate. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? For real? Yeah. So I remember at that time, I was just taking a lot in. And Eric Garner had died just some weeks before. And then I was like, done. So I had to decide to actively I got to turn the news off because I can't keep watching. You can't just keep watching people be killed and be okay. And it's the same like with this pandemic and stuff going on. Like we live like in the hotbed of it, New York City. Yeah. And when you see other people not taking this shit seriously, you looking like, for real? For real? Like, okay, you don't have to walk around fearful, but this is real. So it's that same type of heaviness that, we have in our hearts, but we walk around with that a little more often. So people find their ways to kind of disconnect, and I understand the necessity to do that. I'm the person who does that. But at the same time, it's not going to get no better if you have your head under a rug.
Is that why you chose to make this film?
I chose to make this film. Hopefully it could help somebody.
It can help.
Hopefully it could help. Or at least just ask the question that starts to spiral up other questions, I think that's the point. I don't know. I'm just still finding out. Like when I started writing this, and I talked to God about everything before, especially now. Like the more,
honestly,
for real, it's like now, like the older I get, the more I'm just like, I really don't want to be doing anything that you didn't have me to do, because I feel like I was spinning on a hamster wheel creatively anyway. And now I'm just like, okay, God, you put this in me to do. Okay, manifest it. So I was asking God before I wrote, I was like, what is this in me? Like, what? Help me tell it. And if it's something here, allow it to flow out of me. And it did. It literally did. And then at every step, I was like, okay, God, can you give me a good reading, give me everything that I need along the way, give me the funding, give me the resources. And literally everything has been coming. It hasn't come easily, but it's been like constantly moving. It's been like this currency, it's been flowing. So I'm like, hey, as long as I have it to do. And then this whole COVID thing happened, and I was almost like, maybe we gotta stop, but no, that's not what I got. It was like, no, here, keep going, keep pushing. And I said this in last week's conversation with Paige. It's like, when the times get tough, the tough get going. And I literally had this kick in my ass. It was like, keep going. So it's like, I found all these marketing tips. I've met so many different people who have been so helpful. And then I've tried to find ways to encourage the team. Like, hey, how can we help? How can we help other people? So I don't have no signs of stopping now. So
No.
like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen now. I have that certainty, more so than I had before, because it's like, there's no reason to not have it at this point.
Right. And I think that almost answers your own question of why now. It's like, because you are feeling like this needs to happen now. And if it didn't need to happen now, it wouldn't happen. But it's already, it's every process. I mean, we've talked about this because, you remember when I was like ready to collapse in like late fall last year, because everything is step by step by step, but it's an overwhelming process to make a movie and to be in charge of everything. And you are you are the boss. Every decision is yours. And
can I ask somebody else?
It's like, but that's okay. But you're doing an incredible job. I mean, yeah, you're having these one-on-one conversations with people who are on the creative team, with creative consultants and the actors, and who knows what I am. I have a job. I have a job.
She's a consultant. She's working on casting. She helped with the reading. She got jobs.
So I've got jobs. I don't have any jobs to pay me, but I have jobs. But that it's
guys, so we can pay Rachel.
Okay. Honestly, though, you really should donate. Not just because it's really good and important, but yeah, do you find that it's interesting we're going down that road, because do you find that in some ways that COVID-19 has forced you to hyper focus on yeah
Yes, and I realized I was 3.5 weeks in before I turned my TV on, just to watch it, just to sit down and be quiet and watch TV and not think about how I'm gonna make TV myself. Yeah, so was it like last week?
Honestly, that's probably you're healthier than all of us then.
But am I? Am I?
No, we're all falling apart. It's fine.
It's fine. No, absolutely. This whole time has caused me to hyper focus. Like, I mean, as horrible as this situation has been, it's really pushing out the best in some of us. And it's bad that it takes. I don't know. I think we're built to fight. Like, what is it? Like, iron sharpens iron. We're built. Gold is purified in fire. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's where we are.
And maybe that is why we're still, it's important that you make this movie, because human beings are built to fight.
Yeah.
They are built to move forward.
So we got muscles. Fight or flight responses.
Some of us have muscles.
Okay, well, it's in there.
You know what? Yeah. I'm not allowed to erg anymore. I can't see you no, you're back.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
can I ask one more question?
Okay, sure.
You're a very interesting person, Brittany London, and it's important that we ask you questions.
Thank you, Rachel.
Do you have an intended audience? Are there people specifically who you really want to see this? Who you really think need to see it?
Yeah. People who want to watch it, or people who end up watching it.
That's a really good answer.
That's it. I want to get it out to film festivals. I want to get it. I want it to be a proof of concept. I want producers to see it, to help with distribution. Or distributors because I'm the producer, obviously. So, but I would like help with distribution and funding, and hopefully even for him an attorney because he's still doing a life sentence right now. Like, I hope that the most comes out of this. I expect the most to come out of it. Let me say that. I'm going to get bold and I'm just going to say that. I've been sitting with it for enough months because at first I was so insecure and I was like, oh no. But no, I expect good things to come out of it because it was like given to me to do against, I don't want to say like my better knowing, like, but it wouldn't be something that I would normally be attracted to doing. So that now that I'm in it and I'm so knee deep in it, like I expect the best. Like, if you gave me this, then make it do what you needed to do. So I think that is the best. That is the absolute best that could come out of it. Regardless if it does, it doesn't. Like, I feel like I gave it my all and the best is coming out of me. So there's no regrets.
Yeah.
That's it. Rachel, where can the people find you at, my sister?
Where can the people find me?
Yes.
Oh man, well, you know that I'm always on Twitter. I'm always tweeting.
Oh, you're a tweeter. Okay, I don't have a Twitter.
I had to put discipline on myself with Instagram because I had a little bit of a, well, maybe you can find me on Instagram through Brittany and
give me your handles, girls.
I can't remember. It's Rachel. My Instagram is Rachel Mantell, RachelMantell 888 on Instagram. And then my Twitter is at Rach, RACH. I think it's what? WUT. Wait, let me check.
Bro,
I don't know. You just look down my shirt? What's happening?
No, I'm going to pause you. You're supposed to tell these people this last little part.
You know what? People need to wait for me to find my Twitter handle.
What's your what about your website or your IMDb?
Oh my gosh. My IMDb is on my website. So my website is rachcunningham.com, RACHCUNNINGHAM.com.
Yes.
And my IMDb is linked there. So you can check me out on IMDb.
Any last thoughts for the peeps? Any last for people, for me, for you, for the world?
I think my last thoughts is that I think it's so important to keep making things during times that feel of despair. And
why?
Because creation is it's a very human thing. It's a reminder of our humanity, and we're away from each other.
You know what it feels like to me when you said that? It feels like our humanity, but our divinity at the same time, or
our divinity,
or our connection to divinity.
This is a whole other thing, and probably no one will care about, but this is a whole other thing. But I really believe that creation is a gift that you have no control over. You either have it or you don't. You just kind of have it, and it's given to you, and you're like, oh, okay. Because I resonated so strongly when you were talking about like, okay, God, like this is what you gave me, okay. Because I felt that before, and it's like, all right, I don't know what, like, this is happening. I guess this is happening, and there's sometimes you feel really. I'm sorry.
You think that people don't have control over the things that they create?
Well, maybe not control isn't the right word. I think it's not necessarily. Well, I mean, it's the like classical idea of like, oh, the muses have moved me. Sometimes you just get an idea.
It's a gift.
It's a gift.
Free game.
Yeah, it just like drops in your head, and you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna do this.
What about those people who are like masterminds and nobody knows it because they just sit there and don't do anything? So I feel like you do have control over it, or do.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I guess control. Maybe I don't have the right word for it, but I do. There will be like sometimes somebody will ask me. This really only happens when I'm acting because I'm learning all the other things. But I've had people ask me like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I cannot give you an answer. You're a teacher, so you have a good answer, but I'm like, I don't know. I just did it. I don't remember. Like, I will black out sometimes. Like, there are things that I like don't remember that I did on stage, and people were like, oh my God, what? Like that thing? It's like, nah.
That just means I think you were in it. And I
Yeah.
think the older you get, the more you understand how you did it.
Yeah, well, let's hope.
Or at least a little bit more of the mechanics. I think that's what they teach you, like when you're getting your master's, repeatability. But I won't get all into that. But I think over time, I think you just start to kind of understand like the philosophy behind what came natural to you.
Mm. Sometimes looking back, I can say things. Well, you know how I'm a slow eater, and at a reading, I'm the worst person at a reading because people be like, okay, what did you think? I'm like, I can't. I'm nervous now. I'm scared. I need time. It takes me a while to just like process it. Who was it? Somebody told me at your reading. Like, I don't know a thing about astrology. I don't remember who it was. But somebody said, oh, you're a Pisces. And I was like, sure. I don't know. That means you're slow. And I was like, what? But he said, no. I didn't. It's not like you're stupid. It's just that you take your time to do everything. I'm like, oh, yes, that's correct. I take my damn time.
You're very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, I don't know. I was going to say something. I had a word, but I lost it. Like maybe like process oriented or like, I was going to say like how cats are. But no. It's just one of those things. So it'll come to me. I'll get there. So people are like, but you know what? Important people like you are worth the wait, though.
Brittany, thank you.
Yeah, you got to think about it like that. You do like, when I get there, I'll get there. Give me a second. That's how older women start to become. They like, listen, I've lived too long. You just got to wait. Give me a second. So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for your love, for your light, for your being.
Oh my gosh,
and
thank
for
you.
interviewing me. You're the only person who just went.
Because you have a lot of amazing things to say. That's really exciting to hear you speak about this and about your work. And I want people to see this because I know how good it is because I've read it and it's really good. And I've met pretty much everyone in the creative team, and everybody working on this is so smart and so brilliant. And you are the person who has crafted this and brought this all together. And it's so important. So I want people to hear what you have to say.
Yes, do it. And believe in it, support it. The link is in my bio, indiegogo.com/Javar. We're taking donations. If you feel it, donate. Campaign's going for at least another 24 days, 25 more days, something like that. Please. Love. Light.
Bye.